Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here on my next YouTube video, and this is going to be my next Avatar slash Korra video. It's not going to be a news update video because there has only been one piece of news and I don't think it warrants a whole video by itself. So I'll just tell you that piece of news now. That is that the track team have posted kind of an update to their mention that there's going to be news coming soon. And they basically just said in addition to that the news will be coming in early June, which means that it's only going to be a few weeks away, and I would assume we'd have the news before mid-June, basically before about June 15th, but that's just a complete speculation from myself. Hopefully it's sooner rather than later, and that's pretty exciting. But this video is basically going to be an overview of what I consider to be the best Avatar and Korra books out right now. So comic books, art books, and other things. So that's what I'm going to go through. I don't have every single Avatar book, not even close, that's out. So this is mainly going to be the ones that I think really are really worth your time. That I think, if you're really into the show, that you probably should have these in your collection, or at least look into getting or something like that. So that's basically what it's going to be. If there's a book I haven't mentioned in this video and you think I would be interested in it, definitely post about it in the comments. If you want to know more about these books, I have a review of every single one of them up on my channel, so you can just search for the name of the book on my channel and you'll probably find it. So yeah, there's that, and finally, if you want to know more about these books, definitely comment below, ask me some questions about them if you want to. So I'll just get straight into it. Start off with Korra. Now, there has only been one Korra book released so far. That's going to change in the next few months, but for now, the only Korra book and the only piece of mass-released Korra merchandise right now out is The Legend of Korra Revolution. Now, the reason this is the only first mass release one is because while there is a lot of merchandise out from, say, the shopnick.com or something like that, you can actually buy that in stores, really. I think there's a few t-shirts out right now in like Hot Topic or something like that, but for the most part I'd say this is the only piece of merchandise out. Now, what this is a junior novelization of the first half of Book 1 Air of Korra. So it covers K101 to K106 pretty faithfully, written by Erica Davids, and there's a few additional scenes in this, I think, which is why I'm actually mentioning it here. It's a very cheap book to get it online. You can probably get it for about $5, $6 shipped from Amazon, and as I said, there are a few scenes that aren't in the show but are in this book that give a little bit of extra insight into the characters. It is a junior novelization, so it is written fairly simply in that there's not a huge amount of description to it. It's a very easy read. You'll probably read this in about an hour or just over an hour. It's a very quick one. There are a few pages of kind of black and white screenshots here that are done kind of vignette style. That's pretty nice. But for the most part, it is just a kind of easy read. You know, not that many words on a page, pretty big text. But it is a nice book. So that's the only Korra book that's actually out right now. That's good. Now, Endgame, which is the follow-up to this, will be coming out July 23rd, and I believe Amazon.co.uk have also announced that the third one of these books, which is going to cover, we don't know yet what exactly, but some of the episodes of Book 2 hasn't been named yet, but it's going to be out in January, so that's interesting. And of course, there is a Korra art book coming out July 24th and July 23rd for the other junior novels. So there are some books coming out for Korra, but for now, this is the only one out. Now, Avatar: The Last Airbender. There's a lot more books for this out. I'll cover the comics later, and of course I'll cover the art book. But in terms of other books, the ones that you're probably not expecting to appear in this video, I think there's really only one book that is kind of like, I think you need to get that one. I think this is one that's really worth your time, and it's this. Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Lost Scrolls Collection. Now, There's two ways of actually getting this book, basically. One is this book, which is the collection, all four of them together as one. Or you can get them individually. There is a Lost Scrolls collection: air, water, earth, fire. There's four kind of separate books, but this one collects them all together, and it's probably the easiest way to get it, and probably the cheapest as well, since it is only one book. Now, it's a fairly thick book, as you can see, 256 pages long. There's lots of colour pages, decent amount of writing in it as well, and you may be wondering, what exactly is it? It looks like a kind of more kid-orientated book, but I think this is a bit of a kind of encyclopedia type thing. It is exactly what the title says, The Lost Scrolls. It's as if you picked up a scroll all about the Fire Nation, all about the Earth Kingdom, and it basically tells you a bit about the culture, a bit about the bending discipline, that sort of thing, and also includes a summary of some of the Book 1 episodes that maybe focus on that element. So they're probably like the worst part of the book, not worst, but the least interesting in that. Like, you start off the book with basically Katara telling you the tale of the first like 1 or 2 episodes, and it's very simply written, and it doesn't really add anything else to it, but it's just like, I suppose, an interesting way to recap it in like a water tribe in the water scroll. But what the very interesting stuff is about this book are the stuff that's not the recaps, and that's stuff like this. The water tribes and their philosophy. You get a lot of like exclusive art. Like, we've never seen Hakoda and Arnuk, those images, before in this. You get the extra facts about the insignia, seasons, natural resources, food, some of the animals, forms of the element, waterbending technique. Let's see, moving into the Earth book, what do we get? Same here. Earth Kingdom philosophy, natural resources, food, animals, art of earthbending, stuff like that. Earthbending techniques, it describes kind of some of that stuff. Very interesting book from that point of view, and that's why I think it's definitely the one to get, because a lot of the other kind of books along these lines, from these kind of like Simon Spotlight publisher, that sort of thing, these kind of more kid-orientated books, mainly just are recap stories by the other characters, and don't give you much added information. But with these, you do get these kind of pages, like about the Ganjin tribes and that sort of thing. So that's why I think this book is definitely worth getting, at least, or at least checking out if you see it in the store anywhere. You can get this book fairly cheap online. I believe I got this for under €10 shipped from Amazon. Very solid book. Next one to go into is, of course, the Avatar: The Last Airbender art book, art of the animated series. Now, really big book. Here's a comparison between The Lost Scrolls and it. They're pretty much around the same thickness, not including the hardcover parts. Big book, covers basically the whole series of Avatar: The Last Airbender, all 61 episodes. And the idea of this book is that Mike and Brian basically write a lot of the kind of annotations through it. Starts off with the very early kind of years of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Gives you a lot of writing from Mike and Brian about how they started this Avatar. A lot of sketches, really early on sketches, like that's what Aang and Appa were like originally. And then you obviously get some more colour stuff as well. There's the page about Aang and the early design and how they came about his character. There's Katara, and it just kind of goes on like that for the early part of the book. And then they go into basically a few pages on each of the episodes. So what they go through in each, there's about 2 or 3 pages on each episode, and in those pages they go through basically some of the more like unique things about those episodes. So for the early episodes, they mainly focus on the characters and like their finalizations of the characters, and then they go into like more of the stuff like this. Like, say, the Blue Spirit episode, one of the interesting things obviously is the design of the Blue Spirit and his mask, so it goes into that. So open up another page. The episode The Swamp obviously focuses on the Foggy Swamp tribe, the kind of swamp monster as well as the swamp itself. that sort of thing. You get the sense it focuses on the signature thing of the various episodes. So that's really cool. And then they ends up after, so like there's the first chapter is early development, the second chapter is book 1 water, third chapter is book 2 earth, fourth chapter is book 3 fire, and the fifth chapter is called ancillary art, and basically focuses around kind of more production art, that sort of thing, that appears on the cover of books, cover of DVDs, that sort of thing, and basically covers all of Avatar from an artistic point of view. It's a really nice book, as you just saw. A lot of writing in it, full colour pages, a lot of images. That's what you want. And I think the Korra art book's coming out, obviously book one coming out in a few months, is going to be even better because it's going to have the same basically size book in terms of page count, but only covering 12 episodes. So you'll get like 15 pages or so on each episode, which sounds amazing. But next, of course, has to be comics, Avatar comics. Because these are obviously the key thing. These add to the story. They're in canon, so they're important. First of which, the first comic release officially was the Nick magazines, which posted stories in each magazine from time to time. But most of those have been collected in this book, The Lost Adventures, and it also includes some new comics. And this is a really, really nice book. It's over 200 pages long, has about like 25 to 30 stories set pretty much all between the episodes of Avatar: The Last Airbender. So it tells you these little stories that happen in between episodes, and also this is more to do with in between book 2 and 3. Some stories that happen in between the books, so there's some very nice stories here, and they actually do add a lot to some of the characters. Like in one of these stories, like it says in the back of the book, like, where did the last of the Airbenders hide? When was Zuko and May's first kiss? Who would win in an earthbending showdown, Toph or King Boomy? And why did the Earth King decide to travel the world in disguise? Those are the sort of things that these stories in this book answer, and as well as that, you get a lot of different art styles. So you have a story from Team Guri-Huru here, and you can see the kind of their very early style for Avatar, and it was very kind of kiddie and like not kind of what you maybe expect after like reading The Promise. But this came before that. You see where it came from. You have, I think this is a Johan Matt's art, and then like you have a lot of various different art styles throughout this book, and definitely worth your time because it adds so much, I think, to the series to have these. As the title of the book says, The Lost Adventures. The adventures that maybe wouldn't make a great episode, but make a nice comic. That's what that's about. Next, The Promise. Now, The Promise is available, of course, in the individual copies, which is part 1, part 2, and part 3. But while they're good, there is an even better edition and better way to get those comics, and that is, of course, The Promise hardcover edition, library edition, whatever you want to call it. This book is awesome. It has everything that's in these plus more, because as you can see, not only is the art bigger, as you can see from there, but there are also these various little annotations throughout the book from Jean Luen Yang, the writer, and Team Guri-Huru, the artists, which give you various insights into the story as they go along, whether that be the production process on the art side of things, or writing side of things, or more of an insight into the story itself. And probably the biggest thing of all will probably be the extras at the end of the book, which are great, which basically give you insight into how they designed the new kind of looks for the characters in the comics, as well as kind of some stuff about how they go from early sketches to closer to the finished project to the final line art. Some very nice stuff at the end of this book, and definitely, if you haven't read The Promise yet, this is the way to get it. This book, it's amazing and is pretty much the exact same size as the art book, just the promise is obviously a bit thicker. As for the story of the promise, mainly focuses around Aang, Zuko, and to a lesser extent King Kuei, kind of, I suppose, becoming more better leaders, more adapting to their important roles in the world from here on out, and focusing around stuff like what to do with the Fire Nation colonies now that the war is over, and Aang's kind of differing philosophies to Roku, that sort of thing. There's a lot of interesting stuff there. And the most recent, I suppose, book out is Avatar: The Last Airbender: The Search Part 1. Now, obviously there's Part 2 and 3 coming later on this year. Part 2 on June 10th, and then Part 3 on October 30th. But Part 1 is out right now, and this story is obviously very important. Ursa's on the front. This is the story of Zuko's mom. We're finally going to get that answered. So this is hugely important, this story, and that's why I've kind of left it right until the end. This is so important, and if you're an Avatar fan, you kind of need to get this. And I'll just show you page 1 straight away. You can see straight from page 1, Ursa's there, and someone we don't know yet is there, and you can see that this is going to get really in-depth about Ursa, her early life, and it's going to follow all the way up until where we know she left Zuko and after that, as well as telling us the story of, in the present day, how Aang, Zuko, Azula, and so on are tracking her down. So, really good book, definitely worth getting. If I had it, I would also show off the this year's free comic book day comic, the May comic called Rebound, but I only have that digitally, so if you manage to get a physical copy of that, that's great, but definitely check out that comic online. That's also worth your time. It's in canon as well, all about May and what happens to her in between The Promise Part 2 and whenever her next appearance is going to be in the comics. So, in my opinion, those are the books that I think, as an Avatar fan, you definitely need to kind of, I suppose, know about. You know, these are the things that add to the universe, have some very interesting stuff in them. So there you go. That's it. Comics, art books, and some interesting books like The Lost Scrolls and Korra Revolution. As I said throughout this video, there are a lot of books coming out in the future as well. Next book due out is The Search Part 2 on July 10th. That's going to be followed by the release of the Korra Endgame, which is the follow-up to Revolution, on July 23rd. That's going to be followed the day after by the Korra Book 1 art book on the 24th, July 24th, and then The Search Part 3 is going to be out on October 30th. And I think the third of the Revolution books is going to be out in January sometime, and it's going to focus on some of the early Book 2 stuff, though not much has been revealed about that book. So, a lot of books already out, a lot of books coming down the line. It's a good time for Avatar publishing and from that sort of point of view. So, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have any comments on any of these books, or any books that I haven't included that you think I would like, comment in the comment section below. So, thanks for watching this video, and bye.